So today in the shop, we're going to be turning these beautiful pieces of maple and cherry into one-of-a-kind cutting serving board for a good customer out in Arkansas. Always like to start out making sure the saw is perfectly square, and then we'll start cutting down our maple and cherry into rough dimensions. Size doesn't actually matter so much on this one since we're going to be using our CNC to cut out the final design of the cutting board. You can see this beautiful piece of cherry may look a little rough right now, but in the final design it looks amazing. And then once we get our cuts done here at the miter saw, we'll jump over to our joining jig. I don't have a joiner in the shop yet, so use this simple jig. It's a little piece of 3/4 inch plywood, perfectly straight edges on it, some double-sided tape. So when you're using the double-sided tape, you want to make sure the tape is secured to the board before you pull off the backer. Otherwise, you get to do like this and waste a couple feet of tape, and then reapply some new tape right in its place. And I did this only for educational purposes. It has nothing to do with it just being a goof up that got caught on tape. One other important thing when you're using these jigs is you want to make sure that your stock is not wider than the jig you're using. Charles, I'm talking to you. You want to make sure your stock is not wider than the jig you are using. And you see, if you'd have watched this video ahead of time, you wouldn't have wasted all that time doing this nonsense for absolutely nothing. So off camera, I use my wind track saw to put a straight edge on these boards, and now we're back over to the table saw. With this saw, it does a good job. The only thing is the fence likes to get out of square, so you just got to take your time and take measurements on the front and the back of the blade, make sure the fence is truly square to the blade before you start making your rips. And then this little slow-mo segment here to give you plenty of time to go down and hit that like and subscribe button without missing any of the action in the video. You're welcome. So now we're going to run these boards through our planer here. Just get them down to a uniform thickness of around 3/4 of an inch. And this planer does a great job. When they come out, they feel like they've been sanded smooth. But they haven't. You got to stick around a little bit longer to get to see that. Now we're back to the table saw, ripping these down to the exact sizes we want before we put them in clamps. So here we are, just going to put some glue on here, get it spread it out, put them in clamps. I like to leave these overnight to sit for the glue to cure good. So coming out of clamps, we just get another quick measurement here so I can put it in for the CNC. Here's a couple shots of cutting out the design on the CNC here. You can see we're going for a sea turtle design on this one. So now that we're done cutting, we're going to start sanding, go from 80 up to 220. Not skipping any grits in between, using this little Milwaukee detail sander. It works great on small projects like this, getting in the little tight spaces, little nooks and crannies here. I always like to wipe the board down in between grits, just make sure you get all that loose dust off there. You don't put any extra scratches in the board. That Milwaukee sander works great, like I said. Way better than my cameraman, apparently. I am the cameraman, too. But you can see here, kind of in the shadows, that I appear to be doing a pretty good job getting this thing sanded. After we're done sanding, use some of the atomic finish oil here on it, and it just goes on really easily. It seems to be a pretty good finish. Looks great on these boards. It just goes on. You put it on with a clean rag, kind of buff it in a little bit. Make sure you get all the edges and everything. Flip it over here and do the back side. Then once you get on there, you just gotta let it sit on there for 10 minutes or so. Take another clean rag and just wipe off any excess there, and it is done. Alright, we really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you check out our other videos. Comment below to let us know what projects you'd like to see next. And here is the finished product.